Hey everybody, welcome to Eternal Midnight. I am Chad, and I've got two people on with me today. We got Santino,
Hey, what's up, everyone?
and we are joined by Dylan. He's back. How you doing, man?
Hey, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me back.
No problem. Well, Dylan, we brought you back for a reason. This is a franchise you really like. What are we going to be talking about during this year's Christmas in Crime?
Oh, well, we will be talking about the Saw franchise. If it's Halloween, it must be Saw.
Oh, I used to love that they did that. I hated that they released Spiral in May of all times this year. Like, really? They couldn't wait till October?
Yeah, that was weird.
That you know what? Before we dive into it, I'll say it. Like, I was in, was it 2004? I was a junior in high school when, no, I was a senior in high school when the original Saw came out. And starting with Saw 3, I saw every single one in theaters on opening weekend for Halloween. It was just like it just became our tradition to like me and my friends to go see every single one in theaters. It was just an absolute blast. Looking forward to it every year.
Yeah, that's awesome. I don't think I've seen, despite being a fan, I don't think I've seen any of them in theaters. My introduction to Saw was actually those reenacted by bunnies, like animated shorts.
Hmm.
Yeah, on YouTube. It was like Saw reenacted by cartoon bunnies, and like even that like I think I was 5 or 6 when I saw that. That scared the shit out of me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Santino, how were you introduced to this franchise through this retrospective?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of torture horror. So I actively and here's the thing. Dylan's been telling me yeah, you gotta watch Saw. You gotta watch Saw. I'm like, okay, yeah, I will watch it when I'm in the mood to see some sick thing because
Yeah.
Well, now that you're halfway through, would you say this, like, does it seem like this is really torture or no?
I mean the third one, yeah, but the first two no, and the fourth was just meh. I even though I really like the third one, I feel like okay, yeah, that's just like way too much even for my standards. Yeah, because
just
Phil and
wait.
I were talking last night. It's like I told him like I like the third one. It's like then it's like yeah, I kind of do also, but yeah, it's too torture porny for me. And it's like even by Saul standards, it's like okay, yeah, that's true. Because
So
really,
what I want you to do at some point, I want you to watch Hostel and then come back to me and try and
That's
justify that
torture
with
porn.
these.
Yeah. This is I don't know.
Hostel is the definition of torture porn, and Hostel is, I saw the first one and I was like, I never want to watch that again.
I've seen the first one too. Yeah, to me, Saw. I think of it less as a torture porn. Well, it depends which film, but I think of it more of like a cinematic soap opera almost, just with how tied in all the first 7 movies are.
Yeah, it's basically a cop drama with a bunch of
Yeah,
gore,
it's like a really gory CSI or something like that.
pretty much, which is awesome. I mean, they took all, I mean, I could be wrong, but it's like they're taking inspiration from all the cop shows out there and they're just like, let's go full on horror with it. Why not?
Yeah, yeah.
But we all know that that was not James Wan's original intent with the first movie, I bet, because it was nothing. It was not really a cop drama at that point. That majorly took off with Saw 2. But before we get to that, let's start with the first movie, Saw. I think it was James Wan's directorial debut, his very first film.
Hmm.
Originally, he'd made a short film with it, and then he was able to film this one, the one we all know. And like we said, came out in 2004, and this movie took people by storm. Like, I remember hearing, I mean, to put it in perspective, this movie's budget, 1.2 million, it brought in $103 million.
Yeah, that's insane, isn't it? Like the most at the time, like the most profitable indie movie or something like that.
I believe so,
It broke
because
some record.
that is absolutely insane to make $100 million profit that easily, almost.
Uh huh. I'm
And then
searching
you
on Blu.
compare it to something like Saw 3D, budget of 20 million.
And that movie looks like shit.
Yeah, it does. That's what happens when you film in bad 3D.
Mm.
But sticking with the first one, let's see. Dylan, would you like to start? What were your initial thoughts when you first saw this one?
All right, sure. Well, I think it's a very good movie. It is okay, here's the thing. This franchise is kind of like my guilty pleasure in like a almost Twilight kind of way, because I think a lot of the sequels aren't great, but I think the first movie stands on its own as a legitimately solid crime thriller horror movie, you know?
It's still one of the best twists, I think, in a movie ever, because nobody could have seen that ending coming.
Uh-huh.
At least the first time.
Yeah. I don't know. Sandy, what do you think of it?
I liked it. I mean, like, but for so like, me being invested in pop culture, I already kind of knew who, Saul was, and yeah, it sucks to be me, but I knew what the twist was already before I watched it. Like, oh, the dead guy on the floor is actually.
Yeah, but that's kind of like Sixth Sense. Everybody already knows. So, or it's like, like, Luke, I am your father. Everyone knows that twist doesn't really. I would almost be shocked if you hadn't known. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, and
Yeah, that's what...
oh, sorry, yeah, and yeah, basically, I was really impressed because it was like, oh, I thought it was because every time I hear people talk about Saw, it's like, oh, the traps are like inhumane, and and it's a sick movie, and I'm like, okay, I get that, but like, there's surprisingly like a lot of cop drama in this, which is really cool. It was nice to see Danny Glover in this film. That was awesome to see. And I think if I had to really pinpoint my favorite trap in this movie, definitely the shotgun ceiling. That was awesome.
Jeez.
When he tripped on the wire and it blew off his head like it was nothing. I was like, okay, I'm invested.
That's. I thought you were gonna say like Amanda's trap, but you go with the one where the guy got his own head blown off.
That was creative. Hey, that was creative. Like,
it was smart too, like having those like cobwebs over there so he doesn't notice the trip-wire.
Yeah, exactly. It was like, all right, that's awesome. Like, definitely the shotgun ceiling, because I had I had no idea what was gonna happen until I saw like, oh my god, it's gonna pull the trigger, and then boom, his head goes off, and like you see the aftermath, like his entire like skull is missing. It's like, all right, that was hilarious.
You sound like Belle. That was hilarious.
It was. You watch that and you're like, like that's really creative. Like I'm probably gonna copy that as like a security for my house. Like,
Dylan, never go to his house.
I have not in all these years. I think this is one of
the first Saw. Like really great, like indie film cop drama style with Danny Glover in it. That was really cool, and I really like for a movie that is famous for its gore. I was really cringing when the dude like from Stranger Things, because that's where I know him from.
Carrie Elwes.
Yeah, Carrie Elwes saw this.
That's where you know him from.
Yeah, that's where I know
so
him.
many other great things you could know him from, and you know him from that.
This is the only time I've seen him. Saws his own like.
He's never seen Princess Bride. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
For shame. It's
Saw.
funny you mentioned the gore, because the first movie isn't all that gory, I think, especially relative to the sequels.
Yeah.
Much of it is off screen, I think.
Yeah, what I love about the first one is, honestly, I think this is one of like so many other horror films, this is one that it's like, it feels like it will always be it feels like a classic that's kind of been brought down by how many sequels it has following it, that none of them really live up to as good as the first one. Because again, let's just say this had been a standalone film, I genuinely think this would stand as a massive classic to this day still. People would be like, oh my gosh, I remember seeing it and that twist. Like, I did not see it coming. Because I don't know how anyone could have. Like, and if people say they did, I'm really inclined to be like, I don't believe you, because I was there when it came out. Like, I didn't see it, and I wish I had, but everybody was like everyone I knew was like, I did not see the twist coming.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things, because every time I show this movie to someone, like, I just love to like hear them like guessing who the bad guy is throughout the movie, and then just listen to their reaction at the end. It's great. Like, I showed it to my parents, they did not guess it. I showed it to my sister. I showed it to my cousin. Yeah, it's just great hearing their reactions.
Yeah, the
Absolutely.
final line was awesome. Like, game over. I was like, oh shit. I guess he
Iconic.
won.
And then the credits roll as you hear Adam screaming bloody murder.
Right.
But I think one of my favorite things about the film is definitely just that claustrophobic feeling you feel. Like, imagine being one of these guys. You're in a bathroom that's probably from where Gordon is all the way to where Adam is probably, what do you say, Dylan? 20, 25 feet?
About, I guess, which is weird. This is a weird bathroom. Just like, there's so much space, and yet there's only one toilet and one bathtub. It's really
like
a weird bathroom.
And in between these two guys is a dead body, bleeding out of the head with a gun in its hand. And then just like that, being stuck in there, trying to figure out the clues along with these guys, the kind of like building, revealing mystery of who these guys actually are, the sins of their past, how Adam knew Dr. Gordon. And then like that, getting to the very end where it's like, you see it in the beginning, Adam is the one freaking out, screaming, yelling, help, doing things irrationally. And then by the end of the movie, he's the one like, we got to figure this out. And Gordon's the one just screaming, losing his shit, and then cuts his own foot off because he's just so desperate to finally escape. It's like, I loved watching the role reversals too. I thought that was just so cool how they were able to pull that off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's
I agree.
Definitely a movie that is improved by knowing like the context of the fact that it was shot on like $1 million, you said, Chad?
1.2 million.
Yeah, extremely low budget, and I think it was filmed within like 3 weeks or something, which is insane.
Mm-hmm.
It's like just the amount of obstacles. I think it's very ambitious for a movie of its scale. Although there are times where the budget kind of shows. I mean, the lack of budget, that is. Like, I don't think there's a single outdoor scene throughout this entire movie.
Oh yeah.
And I think I read something, the scenes where anybody was like, when Tap was chasing Zepp at night and they were both in their vehicles.
Yeah.
Those were filmed on a stage.
Yeah, it really shows, when they're in their cars and like the camera's going all crazy and shit.
I kind of liked that though, because it almost added like this. As weird as it sounds, like it almost added something to it, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean? Like the editing? What do you say?
The editing, yes, because like that with the shaky cam and the music that was playing and the way it would like zoom in on them, it kind of gave it like a sense of urgency. Like, because during those guys driving, it was also flashing back to the bathroom where Gordon was screaming, trying to get to the phone right before he was ready to cut his foot off. So it's like, it was like a giant buildup. Like, are these guys going to get in there before he cuts his foot off? Like, that was almost the whole payoff. Are one of them going to cut their foot off to escape or not?
Yeah, I don't know. I just couldn't unsee the fact that they're in a parked car in a garage and they're just moving the camera around. But whatever. They did what they can. And they accomplished it, I guess.
What's her face? Apparently, Shaunie Smith, who plays Amanda in this one with the reverse bear trap, apparently she was like sick when they were filming her scene.
She looked it.
She had like, from what I'm trying to find it. I don't remember where it is, but I think she had like walking pneumonia or something while they were filming that, and she almost didn't go because she was sick.
Yeah, I can see that happening. I mean, honestly, like for me, like what really sold this movie was, how do I put this?
how real it felt. Like the blood felt real. Like when the guy was cutting, like when after he cuts his own foot off, he really looks like he did cut his own foot off. Like the makeup was fantastic.
Oh, he was like deathly pale from losing so much blood and just having a giant open wound. Like that's what you would look like if you lost a limb.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm glad they did not go over the top of the gore here, and like even the traps in this film are way more simplistic compared to the sequels, which is why it's funny. Like in Jigsaw, when it has all these high tech laser traps and shit, when it's supposed to take place.
We go from a simple, like probably like I think the shotgun to the head was probably the goriest trap in the movie because in all honesty, think about it. The barbed wire, we didn't really see anything. The dude who got lit on fire, we didn't see anything.
It depends though, because when it depends if you're watching the theatrical or unrated cut. Because when Amanda's digging through her boyfriend's like entrails,
those were added for the uncut editions, though.
Yeah.
But it's like, yeah, none of it's like you said. None of it's like Jigsaw, where that guy got his head sliced open by lasers.
Right. And I was gonna mention we never actually see Gordon cut his own foot off either, but like in some of the later scenes you can kind of see like an outline of his foot that just looks like it's wrapped in denim or something.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another place where the budget kind of shows. But
the only other way they could have done that though would have been like, like put a green screen sock on him or something and edit it out. But again, I think that kind of adds to like the raw guerrilla filmmaker style that he had. I mean, he only had $1 million, and a decent amount of that money probably went to like Glover and probably went to Danny Glover.
And Carrie Elwes, he was pretty big at the time too.
Mm-hmm. So we don't know how much of that went to the cast, but it's like Tobin Bell, he probably barely got anything this time. He probably got like triple the amount in the next movie.
Yeah, and it's funny how this is essentially supposed to be a direct-to-video like 7 knockoff, but I think the studio liked it so much that they ended up releasing it theatrically.
Because I think, to the best of my knowledge, one of the producers, because most of these movies were made by, there was a group of 3 of them. There was Greg Hoffman, Oren Koules, and Mark Berg. And Greg Hoffman died in 2005. Yep, he died in 2005, so he only got to do 1 and 2.
Yeah. I remember that. I remember you saying that there were only 2 there were only 2 films that Greg Hoffman actually worked on.
Yep.
So I'm guessing the Mark Hoffman is based on him, or
I would assume so, because Detective Hoffman did not show up until Saw 3 after Greg Hoffman had passed away. So I could see them taking inspiration from him. It just makes me wonder how much influence that guy single-handedly had, though. You know what I mean? Because then we started seeing what Saw was becoming later on. But I definitely say this first one is, I'll still say it, it's a horror classic, I think. It's a movie that you need to watch, I'd say at least 2 times, because on your second watch, you can start seeing all the pieces start lining up.
All the foreshadowing.
Yes, so you can see that twist when Jigsaw revealed himself to be in the middle of the room. Mm-hmm. Like, then you could see it. He likes to watch all his games. It's like, because at first, it's like on initial viewing, obviously nobody really, again, this was back in the day where you didn't really expect a movie to have a twist. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you're watching it and it's like, he likes to book a front row seat to all his games. And then it's like, and then they're like not showing who Zepp is. And then boom, they kind of reveal it. And it's like, oh, it's that guy. He like went crazy and decided to take out Hoffman or Gordon. And then it's like, then when Adam finds that tape and plays it, hello, Zepp. It's like, wait, so he was stuck in on it? And then when you see Jigsaw rise off the floor, it's like, oh, shit. Like, I'll never forget the first time I saw this movie. And I saw that happen. I was like, no way.
I get chills every time I see it. Accompanied by the Charlie Clouser score, the iconic Hello Zepp theme.
Yep.
It's like even in the weaker sequels, it's like a Pavlov effect because like even in the shittier sequels with a lame twist, when they play that Hello Zep theme, like I still get chills even if the twist isn't very good.
100%
I'm just
agree.
conditioned to think like this is the coolest thing ever once you play that theme.
Let's see. Do either of you have? I think I'm pretty much tapped out.
Yeah,
Do either of you have anything else? Oh, another thing. Gordon's wife. Do either of you recognize her or no?
Along Came a Spider. Is that she in that one?
She might have. I haven't seen that. She might have been. She's
Monica
in one
Park.
of my favorite horror remakes.
Okay, which is?
Last House on the Left.
Oh, I have not seen either of those.
Ooh, watch the remake at some point. Watch both of them. Like obviously watch the original, but definitely I love the remake. It's one of my favorite horror remakes like ever. She plays the wife in it.
All right, I'll keep that in mind.
So let's see. Do either of you have anything left for the original Saw?
I don't know. I guess I like how much it leaves to the imagination as well. It's like we don't know too much about the killer himself, which I think works here because in the sequels, when you learn about his philosophy, you just think he's a hypocritical asshole. Like, oh, he's constantly contradicting his own, the Jigsaw rule. But in the first movie, by having him be that mysterious, it's like he's less predictable, right? And I don't know. He doesn't really have to stay consistent with his moral code this time around.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Jigsaw always says that he's not a killer. The people kill themselves. It's like, dude, you're a murderer.
In the first movie,
I think they even say it in the second movie, like holding a gun to someone's head and forcing them to pull the trigger is the same as killing them.
Right.
So yeah, the original Saw. I think I'd speak for all three of us. It's a great film.
Yeah, it's a classic.
And it still holds up. And it's like, you know what, Dylan? Like you said, those added scenes of the gore, in a way, I almost wish they hadn't done it. Because like that scene of like Amanda's hands covered in the blood and holding like the intestines, obviously being, a horror gore hound, I enjoy it. Like I like seeing it because it's like, oh, damn. But on the flip side, it's almost like I didn't need it. I could have been just fine without it.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's just by far the most well-made of the Saw movies. The plot, the way it unravels, makes sense. The way it jumps around time, the flashbacks don't become tiring like they do in the sequels. There's actual character, there's actual humor here too. There's some pretty funny interactions between Gordon and Adam. We don't really get that sense of humanity in most of the other Saw movies, I think.
I mean, shoot, Saw 3D opens with two guys with a saw in between them where one of them has to die or kill the girl. I don't really think, while people are watching. I was to say, there's no humanity there, is there?
Yeah, I guess.
So the original Saw, all around, genuinely great film.
I agree.
Now we hit the direct sequel, Saw 2. So the weird thing about this one is it's almost like, in a weird way, kind of going off what you just said, Dylan, it was almost like, what do you do for a sequel? Do you literally just do the exact same thing again, where it's like a trap, but now this time we know who Jigsaw himself is. We've seen what Jigsaw looks like. So it's like, what do we do? Instead, they kind of went the exact opposite. They were just like, we're going to turn the killer into one of the main characters this time. And so I like Saw 2. It's in probably the lower half of all the movies, but I still like it. But I genuinely, like, when rewatching it for this, I forgot how much I loved. It doesn't sound like you're as big a fan of it as I am. I loved listening to him talk to Detective Matthews. I don't know what it was, but I'm like, there's something about watching this that sets this apart from other horror films and other killers like Leatherface, Michael Myers, Jason, Freddy, that makes him completely different, where it's like we know who this killer is. Because I don't care what philosophy they're trying to go with. I don't kill people and I don't condone it. Dude, you murder people.
Yeah.
Sorry. You don't get to act like you're a good person when you're like, I'm going to, you took your life for granted and I'm going to teach you a lesson. Cut off your arm or you'll die. It's like, no, that's not teaching. It's like the chick says later in like, I think it was like Saw 6, where that chick like cut her arm off and she like says to the cop, she's like, what lesson am I supposed to learn from this? And she like puts her like stub of an arm on the table. It's like, yeah, true.
Yeah, I think this movie's definitely Jigsaw at his best. I think this is Tobin Bell's I don't know, he really gets a chance to shine in this movie and show a range of emotions. I feel like in the sequels he's like in the ones after this he's a more monotonous character. I also like Donnie Wahlberg a lot in this movie.
Yeah, he was fun to watch. I swear. Like I like Dylan's has always been telling me like, dude, Donnie Wahlberg is great in Saw. All right, okay. All right.
I think he's an underrated actor, and I think more consistent than Mark Wahlberg, honestly.
Yeah.
Wow.
Can't think of any like the happening like situations for him,
So what was I gonna say? Oh yeah. So basically, like when I finally saw Donnie Wahlberg in this, I was like, okay, he's good. Yeah, he's really good. I was invested in his story, the story of his son missing and all that, and I did not expect that twist coming. I don't know anything about Saw 2, but when I found out that these timelines, these two stories are not synced together, it's like, oh damn, that was awesome.
So which one did you like better? Which twist did you like better, though? The fact that it wasn't taking place at the same time, or that Daniel was literally 5 feet away from Matthews the entire movie?
The second one was awesome.
You'll find him in a safe space, so he says.
Sit here and talk. And that's another thing. I'll say it like we're only at Saw 2, but I'll say it now. If you just listen to Jigsaw, you will survive.
Yeah.
Like that's what's her face?
Amanda.
Carrie.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's what she said. She like I love Dina Meyer. Like I've had a crush on her ever since I saw her in Starship Troopers.
Dizzy, yeah.
But I loved her in this. It's just shame she didn't last much longer. But it's like I loved her in this because it's like she was the Jigsaw expert. That's why it makes sense she was killed off. But it's like I love how she said it. She's like, you have to play by his rules. And it's like if he'd just listened and waited, it all would have been over. He would have gotten his son, and Jigsaw would have been arrested.
Yeah.
But that's what I like about Jigsaw is he's smart enough to know who's going to listen to the rules and who's not.
No, and Jigsaw's smart enough to know that people will really just act on their emotions and not listen to what they're actually saying, which is true.
Mm-hmm.
I did not also expect that Amanda was actually like an apprentice of Jigsaw. I was like, that was cool to watch. Especially since she fell into like the best trap in this movie, the needles.
Oh,
that was like, oh wow. I was like,
yeah,
that must have hurt. I hate injections.
Upon rewatching this, like I'm surprised by how not gory the movie is. There's actually still like the restraint from the first movie. It still carries over here. Like when Abby, that dude, is getting burned in the furnace. The camera does not like stay inside and like we don't see like his body like slowly burn to death. Like for the most part, it just focuses on his face. Like I like that kind of restraint, I guess.
Like when he breaks out the back half of the furnace and it just shows like his his chest outward outside of it, yelling and screaming and then finally dying.
It's such an awful way to die because like half of his body is out. It's like it's the lower half that's slowly burning to death, and yet we don't see. Yeah, we don't get a clear view of that happening. Same with the opening trap, the Venus flytrap. It's like
that was brutal. That was brutal.
Yeah, we don't need to see his face get shredded, right? Because it closes and like all we see are his eyes, right? But like that's enough. It's all left to the imagination.
Which, like anything, whenever you leave something up to the imagination, it's almost always worse, because when you see the gore, you just feel sick. When you think about it, it's scarier.
Worse, yeah.
And
Like
again,
that, the idea, imagine being in that trap and it suddenly, boom, spikes right into your face and the back of your head.
not just
That's
that, but
way
like
scarier than watching his head blow up or something.
the fact that you have to gouge your own eye out to
Oh,
survive in like a minute.
I honestly, when I see, like, I remember watching that when I was watching that, I was like sitting there and I'm like, obviously we're like, just do it. But I'm like, I couldn't do it.
Yeah, I could not, definitely not in a minute,
I couldn't do it at all. I could never bring myself to take a scalpel and cut my own eye out. I couldn't.
Yeah, I could not do it also.
Like I said earlier, probably this is definitely my favorite portrayal of the Jigsaw Killer. I just really love how his dialogue is written here. Some of his lines, like obviously his philosophy, it's all bullshit and it's inconsistent throughout the series.
Mm-hmm.
But so his whole tangent about how like people never appreciate being alive until like they're faced with death. He talks about how like we're all just sleepwalking in oblivion like through life. That's good stuff. Like I really like the conversations between him and Donnie Wahlberg.
Which I'm shocked, because Carrie knew so much about him, but I don't think she exchanged one word with him the entire movie.
Yeah, you're right.
Like, I get that the focus was between Detective Matthews and him. And yeah, I agree. Like you said, it was some great conversation back and forth. I just almost wish there'd been more of it, because obviously this was the only movie where Matthews was the main character. But it was like, and it's funny. I've seen people, jumping ahead a little bit, I've seen so many people say that what's his face from Saw 3, the main guy from Saw, Jeff, is just like an irredeemable piece of shit. And I'm like, yeah, but Detective Matthews really isn't that much further off himself.
Yeah.
Like, he's kind of a monster if you think about it. Like that scene where they reveal that Daniel's in the house with all the people that Matthews framed over the years. It's like, this guy, definition of a corrupt cop.
Yeah, that's the thing. I kind of did not feel anything when Amanda like locked him in that same bathroom. I was like, yeah, you kind of deserve that, dude. You framed so many people.
You just
falsely locked up a lot of people, but I don't know. I think he was at least sympathetic at times, which I guess is a testament to Donnie Wahlberg's acting, to make such an irredeemable character not likable, but sympathetic at times.
And the fact that it was all, even in the end, when he was in the bathroom, he's still screaming his son's name. It's like, he could.
Such a chilling ending too.
Again, it's like the first one ends with Adam screaming, and this one ends with, "I'll fucking kill you, bitch."
Yeah. And
him just screaming it over and over. "I'll kill you. I'll fucking kill you. No, you fucking bitch," as it says who directs the movie.
And it doesn't play like the super like the same version of Hello Zep. It's like a more quiet, like subtle version of it as the camera slowly zooms out of Jigsaw.
Mm-hmm.
Really effective.
That scene was so chilling, because I remember the first time I watched it, I'm like, he's dead. I'm like, Matthews beat him to a pulp and he's gonna die in that van now. But then it's like,
smiling.
It's like I remember the first time I saw that, I was like, when I got it on DVD, I was like, is he smiling? I remember I rewound it and like got closer, and I'm like, I was like, that was what it was. Because I got this one on DVD obviously before Saw 3 came out. So because at first time I saw it, I'm like, that's it. And then Saw 3's coming out. I'm like, but he's dead. And then I watched it. I'm like, oh no, he's not.
Yeah. So I think everyone acknowledges that the first movie is obvious homage to 7, but I think this movie feels a bit closer to Silence of the Lambs, mainly with the like the main villain being like in captivity throughout most of the movie, and a lot of the film being conversations between him and the main detective character. You know,
Nice connection.
there's an escape scene, you know, where he escapes captivity, and there's a twist towards the end where they play around with the editing a bit, right, to make you think the SWAT team, to make you think that what's his name, Donnie Wahlberg is like breaking into the house to save Daniel, only for it to be the wrong house or whatever. Kind of like in Silence of the Lambs, when you know it's edited to make you think that Buffalo Bill is being raided by the SWAT, only for that to be the wrong house.
Right.
Yeah,
It's just like a trashier version of that.
yeah. Obviously, no. But yeah, I know some connections.
Let's see. I'm not gonna lie. You know who I actually loved seeing in this movie?
Who?
That chick Beverly Mitchell from Seventh Heaven.
She the prostitute. Which one is she?
No, she was the chick who was like the one who was like, "Oh, he's the one who kidnapped me."
Oh, there's the shoplifting lady.
Yeah. It's just funny because it's like I remember always like watching her on Seventh Heaven as a kid, then seeing her in this. I'm like, wow, she hasn't done much with her career if this is what the poor thing's been reduced to. But
Yeah.
actually, the way that prostitute chick died, I've got to say that's the worst of anyone in the movie. Unintentionally slashing your wrists and then being stuck standing there until you bleed to death.
I don't know, man. I think being burned waist down is probably. I imagine it would take a lot longer than portrayed in the film.
Yeah, I'll give you that. I don't know. I think both would be. I guess with the burning, you're more freaking out that it's happening. But with your wrists being slashed, like what happened with her when she was trying to get that antidote out, and then Xavier walks in, she's like, "Oh my God, he's gonna save me," and then he just slowly shuts the door on her. It's like,
She checks her number first and then he leaves.
Yeah, checks the number and then just leaves her to die.
What was your favorite trap, Chad? Out of all the in this movie, in Saw 2.
I think the one that made me laugh the hardest, and it's iconic. Like I'll always like what I just said, the one with Addison and the needle pit, but I do like how they go all out right at the beginning of Inside the House, where it says like, "Do not use this key to open the door," and Amanda's like, "Don't do it." He said, "Don't do it." They're like, "Fuck that." They unlock it. Dude just gets his head blown off.
Oh yeah, that was fun.
Possible homage to Dario Argento's Opera. Have you seen that movie?
Mm-mm.
There's a very similar like gun through the peephole effect, whatever. Yeah, I think it's the needle pit for sure. Like you said, Santi, like you know, hate injections. It's very easy to imagine that trap.
Yeah, brutal, disgusting. Not as disgusting as the one in the third movie, where it's like that just was unfair. But I'll talk about it.
Oh yeah.
I'll talk about it later.
So is that it for Saw 2 then?
Santino, what was your favorite?
What for number 2?
Yeah.
I said it a while ago. It's the needle trap.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Saw 2, you know, it's, like I said, it's still in the lower half, but it's only there because there's so many others that I enjoy more, but I would never call this one a bad one at all. And now talking about it with both you guys, I'm still starting to feel more strongly about it. So who knows, my ranking that I've got right now could definitely change by the end.
Well, yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Each time I watch it, I'm just more convinced that it's at least among the stronger sequels. So, yeah, damn good movie. And my favorite portrayal of Jigsaw, I think.
Santino?
I love that ending. I love that ending where he's just smiling in the car and he's like bleeding. And he knows that he won and shit. Like, oh man.
As Amanda says, game over.
Yeah, that sucked balls for that guy. But like, all right.
Hey, Jigsaw told him the rules. Sit here and talk with me. He didn't listen.
All right.
So that wraps up episode 1, Saw 1 and 2. We will be back in a few days with Saw 3 and 4, which will close out the first trilogy of this franchise. So guys, what did you think of Saw 1 and 2? Let us know down below, and we will see you in a week. Have a good night.
Bye, guys.
See ya.